So, yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah. I say that all the time. Anyway, well, that's apparently been fixed. That was one of the changes with this release. I doubt that got picked up on the mic, but if it did, well, there's your blooper. So, I mean, Mac scrolling is terrible. I need to turn my sensitivity down on my mouse. But anyway. Good day folks, Jordan here, returning with another software overview video. Today we're looking at Ubuntu 12.04 LTS, Precise Pangolin, released on the 26th of April 2012. This was Canonical's fourth major long-term support release of Ubuntu, which the support for this, for mainstream customers, which would be the general public, ended on the 28th of April 2017. However, I don't know if it's Canonical Advantage or Ubuntu Advantage customers. Not entirely sure which phrase it is, but if you are an Advantage customer, it turns out you can actually still receive security updates for Ubuntu 12.04 right now as I'm making this video, which is just insane. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. Probably it ends early next year, but it's still insane to see that a 6-year-old, roughly maybe 7-year-old release of Linux is still getting security updates to this day with paid enterprise customers or businesses or whatever, which is just crazy. I mean, normally Linux doesn't get that long of support per release of a distribution, so that's pretty crazy that they're dedicated to keeping support going for this release. It's not very often you see that. So what's new with Ubuntu 12.04 LTS? Well, not much, but there are some notable differences to try to keep the user experience consistent and fast and whatnot, such as faster startup time for the Ubuntu Software Center, which probably was a big deal back in the day on actual hardware where 11.10 took a while to launch the Ubuntu Software Center. Well, that's apparently been fixed. That was one of the changes with this release. I doubt that got picked up on the mic, but if it did, well, there's your blooper. Another difference was that the music player was actually changed from Banshee back to Rhythmbox, which is very interesting that that was the case. I don't know what the change was for, but they changed it back to Rhythmbox. Presumably you can still download Banshee and use it with Ubuntu, but I don't know if that's still the case nowadays, if they still use Rhythmbox or if they just default to the VLC. I'm not too sure. We'll see that change as we go up the scale. Another difference was the Tomboy Notes application was actually dropped. And another thing that was dropped was the Mono framework. So both of those were dropped. I'm not sure if Tomboy Notes and the Mono framework had anything to do with one another. I don't think so. I think they were just coincidentally dropped, by themselves, probably because there was a better version of it, or maybe they just wanted to emphasize the Libreoffice suite for all of those sorts of things, which was regularly updated. Of course, it still is regularly updated, so maybe that's why they did that. Another difference was Ipv6 extensions were enabled by default in 12.04 LTS. I'm not going to get into the differences between IPv4 and IPv6 in this video, but I'm just going to say that they were enabled by default, so IPv6 is a pretty big deal in terms of networking and security and stuff like that, as well as IP address. I don't know what the term is for that, but bear with me. It's there. It was added. So that's a nice improvement. At least I can understand that much. It's an improvement. The last thing that's worth noting is that there is a new heads-up display in Ubuntu 12.04, which allowed for searching for menu items and certain applications from the keyboard without needing the mouse. Sort of like how you do keyboard commands in macOS and Windows today, although I suppose that's probably a slightly different in 12.04. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to demonstrate that in today's video, probably not. So you'll just have to bear with me on this and just assume that that was there. However, Mark Shuttleworth talked about how this HUD feature will ultimately make some replacements in Unity applications for menus, but for right now, they still remain in 12.04, the menus at least. I'm not sure if nowadays they still have menus or, keyboard commands take priority. I'm not entirely sure. But, a heads-up display feature, that is pretty cool, not going to lie. So with that having been said, we'll take a brief look at the website for 12.04 LTS, because in the last video, the website was rather broken. But I believe in this video, hopefully the website will be fixed, and we can actually take a look at, the website. So let's roll into that right now. Proven, practical, precise. Choose Ubuntu 12.04 long-term support for long-term deployments. And I love how they clearly use an Acer laptop, but they rubbed off the Acer branding. Very, very nice. And the reason why I know that this is an Acer, well, I'll get to that here pretty shortly. I think it's pretty funny. Of course, they use the word precise to advertise Precise Pangolin because, of course, that's the kind of the code name for this operating system was Precise Pangolin. So let's see if there's anything different with the website when it talks about the Ubuntu desktop. And interestingly, there's a lot more devices underneath here than I thought there was. Maybe I don't pay attention to these websites enough, but I don't know. The Wayback Machine has a pretty slow domain for this website, so we're going to have to bear with it. And yeah, see, there we are right there. Acer branding right there, very front and center. I thought that was just hilarious. But anyway, my Ubuntu setup is faster than a PC and prettier than a Mac. Right.
Are you sure about that?
You know, I hate to explain the obvious, but, you know, Ubuntu is very obviously used on a PC. It's called a personal computer. So you're not going to get away with that kind of a quote. And presumably that's from the New York Times. So it's like, if you're talking about a PC as in regards to a Windows PC, fine, I get that comparison. But, you know, a Mac is still technically a PC because, again, the acronym personal computer, you know, it plays a role. So you can't just say that it's faster than a PC because you're using a PC whether you like it or not, because every computer is a PC. So, whatever, enough of that rant. Yeah, that's really all there is to talk about. I mean, there's probably the features page. We can explore that and see what's different. But honestly, I think I've talked about everything that's new just in the beginning of this video. So honestly, I don't know what's going to be new in terms of the features page. Ooh, nice. The advertising a game. You know, I will give them that. That is pretty cool. They do advertise a couple of cool things. And they talk about the security and compatibility and such. Ubuntu loads quickly on any computer, but it's super fast on newer machines. I will give them that. You know, it is actually quite quick to actually start this operating system up on newer machines, especially if you have solid-state drives. That does make a difference, and solid-state drives were gaining popularity in 2012, especially on newer PCs in late 2012 with Windows 8. Then that's when SSDs practically took off in popularity, and nowadays many PCs come standard with solid-state media as their main storage device. So, I mean, Mac scrolling is terrible. I need to turn my sensitivity down on my mouse. But anyway, so yeah, I can see what they mean by this because it does make sense. So, yeah. I say that all the time. Anyway, that's it for the website. So, let's go ahead and move on to the operating system itself. And while we let it boot up, I want to talk about a couple of the reviews of Ubuntu 12.04 LTS that I found online, starting with one from Jesse Smith of DistroWatch, who talked about Ubuntu 12.04 LTS. Jesse said that many people, like him, had questioned Ubuntu's direction, including Unity's desktop, or the Unity desktop environment. You know, because of course Unity was new and it was all over the place, it was a mess, it didn't make sense, at least at the time. But with Ubuntu 12.04 long-term support, he felt that the puzzle pieces, which individually may have been underwhelming, had come together to form a whole clear picture. He said, and I quote, "Unity, through a step away from the traditional desktop, has several features which make it attractive, such as reducing mouse travel. The heads-up display means that newcomers can find application functionality with a quick search, and more advanced users can use the heads-up display to quickly run menu commands from the keyboard." Jesse had also wrote that Unity had grown to maturity, while indicating that he was bothered by its lack of flexibility. He did notice issues, however, especially that the heads-up display did not work in LibreOffice and so on and so forth, and virtual machine performance was unsatisfactory. I'm not sure about the virtual machine performance necessarily, but maybe back in the day computing was a little bit different than it is nowadays, so maybe that might not apply to us today. But to summarize what Jesse had talked about in his review of Ubuntu 12.04 LTS, he says, and I quote, that it was head and shoulders above anything else in the Linux ecosystem. Which, needless to say, he wasn't wrong. Ubuntu 12.04 LTS was a big deal back in the day. and it brought forth some many needed improvements to the Ubuntu user experience. And hell, if you're still using it today, if you're an Advantage paying customer, you probably got your money's worth. So, needless to say, that's probably something that's worth talking about because, long-term support releases of Ubuntu are really a big deal if you think about it, because you're getting that extra security that you don't get with pretty much most other distributions, unless, of course, you're like Debian or Linux Mint or something like that, which provide extra security updates through a paid subscription service. Not too sure how many others do that, but, that's to name a couple. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this installing, and then we'll maybe talk about another review. I don't want to go too far into talking about reviews because I don't really like to blab about that stuff. I wanted to talk about the one from Jesse Smith, the distro watch in particular, because I think it was quite important to talk about, because he summarized it pretty well, noting that there were still some flaws in the operating system. However, it really wasn't the end of the world either, and that it's still a pretty solid release, and if you installed it, you wouldn't be disappointed. Which, for most people, that was the case. A lot of people... Oh, that's a missing texture. I'm not sure if that's actually supposed to be missing or what. Anyway, minor distraction aside. But he did summarize the operating system quite well. And back in the day, it was a pretty popular release. And it was quite powerful, quite functional, and it was very responsive. I'd never personally used it. I was still using Windows XP at the time, in fact. And I think... was it shortly after Windows 8's launch, I actually just went straight from, at the time I upgraded machines, so I went from Windows 7 Pro to Windows 8 Pro when they had that promotional offer, and that's pretty much what I used back in the day, was Windows 8. I never really did use Ubuntu as my daily. I might have tinkered with it at some point, but, oh god, not the camera again. Oh, this is gonna suck. Where's the warning for my camera? No! There's no warning for my camera. Okay, since it's not using my camera, we're just going to pick a profile picture and move on. Alright, there we go. Fast and feature-packed, Ubuntu makes your PC a delight to use. And with the latest version of the Unity interface, it's now easier than ever. Here are a few more cool new things to look out for. Well, the slideshow is getting slightly cut off due to the low 800 by 600 resolution, which I don't know why it's that way, but whatever. Talks about the Ubuntu Software Center, which is nothing new, although they do include DOSBox, which is pretty cool. Open Arena. They do advertise at least a couple of nice things. There's Shotwell and some of the other features or available programs that you could download. Of course, Ipv never was included inside of this after. I think it was 11.10 was when it was dropped. Don't quote me on that, of course. Oh, now they advertise an iPhone inside of the slideshow with Ubuntu 1. Hooray! They are actually expanding things. And they also give you 5 gigs of cloud storage now, which is pretty cool, instead of 2 gigs like before, with a new panel to look at, which actually looks pretty cool, I gotta admit. So, some nice subtle improvements. Of course, this is where they talked about the Rhythmbox music player. Again, I'm not sure why they switched from Banshee to Rhythmbox. I guess maybe licensing agreements or something, which is why they had to switch to using Rhythmbox instead of Banshee for the Ubuntu One Music Store, which is certainly a possibility. I don't know. Of course, it talks about the messaging program. I'm not sure if they still used Empathy at this time. I'll have to check that. But I believe they probably changed the program because it says GWibber there, so maybe that's some kind of GNOME thing, because GNOME was still included in Ubuntu at this time, so a lot of programs still ran on top of GNOME libraries. So that would make sense why that was there. Oh, wow. Look at that old YouTube page. Wow. I remember, specifically, I remember when YouTube used to look like this. It had those big chunky buttons, and you could easily switch videos from there. It had that textured background, and it loaded a lot quicker. It actually ran on older hardware, too, which was a big deal back in the day. I miss those times, man. I really do. I wish YouTube would lighten up their website, man. It's really heavy nowadays. Of course, there they talk about LibreOffice, which makes sense because, of course, that's a pretty big, important program for the Linux operating system. Talks about appearance, which there's actually quite a bit of wallpapers in this. We'll actually take a look at those because there's one in particular, and you might have already seen it, of course, given the thumbnail for this video, but there's actually quite a bit of nice wallpapers in here. I think the Precise Pangolin one is in there too, so we'll see that when we actually get the desktop up. I think it's trying to download the security updates right now. Don't quote me on that because I never selected that to install updates, but I don't know. So, I don't know what it was doing there. It might have been trying to... Is it actually downloading stuff? That'd be kind of interesting if it actually is. I know I wouldn't doubt it that it would actually still be downloading stuff because technically, even though I'm not a paid customer, technically this is still supported until early next year as of the making of this video. So maybe they might be trying to do stuff. I don't know. But of course I could be very well out of date, and the last one could be 14.04 LTS, of which I could actually download the security update. Oh no, it's actually downloading stuff as we speak. And I can't click the skip button because the skip button is off the screen. So whether I like it or not, I'm downloading language packs. Well, isn't that just fancy of me? Alright, well I'm going to go ahead and let this finish installing, and I'm going to just speed up the footage, and hopefully we'll be back at the desktop very shortly. Alright, and here we are at the login screen. Interestingly, in 11.10 I didn't hear the bongo drums, but this time I did, so wonder why they put those back in. I'm not too sure. Anyway, let's go ahead and log in. I like the effect where the icons, they kind of just drill themselves in. That's kind of cool. Have to admit that is pretty neat. So here we are at the Unity desktop. So I think real quick, let's go ahead and change the resolution here, because that definitely needs to be taken care of. So let's see, I can get it pretty close with 1360 by 768, but I don't have VMware tools installed. Alright, so let's go ahead and before we do anything, I just want to see what happens when we actually check for oh come on, there we go, for software updates. It does advertise a new long-term support release. However, I'm not too sure that, oh my god, we have updates. Holy crap. Just for shits and giggles, I think from now on, if there's any software updates to update any of the programs, I might just do that. But I think for now, oh god, get out of here, ask me later. Yeah, let's just go ahead and minimize that for now, and we'll come back to it. And let's check out what actually comes inside of Ubuntu first things first. So here's the dash. As you can see, it's got a slightly different look to it. Now it actually goes straight to recent apps rather than having that confusing thing from before where you would have these 4 little options and then your apps would just be spread out into these random categories, which made no sense. And now down here you can see your applications are now in this sort of menu, and whatever this Me Maker thing is not definitely creepy, but we'll not worry about it because it's available for download and it's not actually installed. We have our folders, we have our media, or in this case music, and videos. So it's a little more spread out. It looks a lot cleaner, so definitely a nice touch there. So that's pretty cool. Of course, all these installed applications are kind of mixed in with the settings once again. I'm not sure why that is. It just doesn't make any sense. Interestingly, Emacs is installed. Let's try launching that just out of curiosity. Here we go. As you can see, there's Emacs. It opens up. I have no idea how to use it. I've never used Emacs before, but it's there. It works, I suppose. What version of Firefox does 12.04.4 what does it actually come with? I love the little wiggling effect. Anyway, so let's see. What version? Version 26, so that's quite a bit newer than I was expecting. I almost wonder if in the update manager there's actually an update for Firefox. I'll have to see if that's in there. Obviously there's security updates, but that kind of makes sense. I'm not too sure. I might not see it in here because they probably have some funny code name in it. and I'm not going to be able to find it, but that's okay. Not too worried about it. I'm pretty sure this updates it to like somewhere in the 30s or something, if I had to guess. Which means that technically we should still be able to download software from the Software Center as long as I run all the updates. So I might make this a part 2 video if I actually run those updates. We'll see if that actually means that I can actually download stuff and still use 12.04 to this day, which would be kind of impressive. I don't know. What does 12.04.4 come with in terms of a version of LibreOffice? Let's find out. I can't wait for this. Alright, what do we got? 3.5.7.2. Not too shabby. I think the last thing let's check out is the Ubuntu 1 thing, because I think that should still open. But let's see. Let's sign me up for an account. Let's see if this still loads. Oh, there's a problem getting the CAPTCHA. Oh no. Well, that sucks. Maybe I'll try updating and we'll see if that actually works. So, I guess we can actually check out, because I remember in the first versions of Unity, this system settings thing was all over the place, but it now actually has some kind of a sense of purpose to it, which is nice. It looks a lot cleaner and has everything in sensible locations. I wonder if that backup thing... Yeah, there's that Deha dupe backup tool sort of thing. I remember talking about that. I believe it works. I would hope it works. But yeah, I think with everything having been said, I think that's all I can really show, because of course Tomboy Notes was removed, so that's not going to be in the installed list. I think they just changed it to whatever this text editor thing is here. Oh yeah, gedit. So that makes sense. They switched it to gedit, because of course GNOME. But I believe, interestingly, GIMP is actually installed. I wonder how that got on there. Maybe they re-included it, or maybe it downloaded itself with the repositories, make a full software experience. Who really knows? Could just be that I'm running VMware and that's a thing. Who really knows? I don't know. Of course, there's a startup disk creator and so on and so forth if you want to make a startup disk for some reason. But yeah, I think that's really all I can talk about inside of Ubuntu 12.04 LTS. So I'm going to probably run the software updates. I'll see if anything changes. And if so, well, I'll make note of it. But I don't think it's really kind of worth my time. But it's still kind of cool to see that I finally have a distro that's old enough that still actually gets security updates. I think that's pretty impressive. So, jokingly, I'm going to go ahead and dink around with these. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. And I'll see you all in the next one. Alright, so crazily enough, it looks as if we can actually install the updates and have it work. So now we have Firefox updated to version 52, I think it was. 52.0.2, 64-bit even. So that's pretty cool. Now we have a pretty much up-to-date web browser. It's not the most up-to-date. We're now on Firefox Quantum 63 as of the making of this video. But still, I mean, that's pretty cool. Now we can go to... That's not where I wanted to put the address. We can go to Google, and it'll still be, for the most part, up to date. And that's pretty cool for a Linux distro such as this. So I almost wonder if there's some programs that we can actually go ahead and install, which may or may not actually work. So let's go try Discord, for example. We'll see if that'll actually let us install it. I don't know. This distribution might be so far out of date that it might not actually work. But you never know. We'll give it a shot here. So we'll let this download. And in the meantime, I suppose I could try Skype, but I don't want to reveal any personal information, so I'll just not even worry about it. But my guess is it would maybe work, since this is probably the minimum supported OS that this would run on. But looks like Discord opens up in the Software Center. And I don't know if that actually worked or not. Oh, there it is. Dependency is not satisfiable. libatomic1. So I almost wonder if I would need to download that from the terminal and actually have it work. Not too sure.
It might be something we can try to do. I'm not going to really go on my way to make sure that this works because I'm not going to use this, but it'd be kind of interesting if it does. So now sudo apt get update. See if maybe we can get this to function here. Alright, we're up to date, so now we'll do sudo apt get install, I guess, libatomic1. Probably nothing's going to work because it's not going to show up.
So, no surprise there. Not going to get it to work. It probably works on 14.04, but I don't know for sure. I know it works on the latest version, but that's pretty easy to do, so I'm not going to really go out of my way to install it on here, so it is what it is. At least I gave something a try. LibreOffice also got updated So it got updated to LibreOffice 3.5.7.2. So a couple more updates, maybe. So that's not too bad. And yeah, so that's that. I suppose real briefly we can check out the desktop background since there are quite a number in here. I have the precise Pangolin wallpaper set, of course, which is the one that I used in my thumbnail. But there's some other ones in here like Twilight Frost. And you can see the color of the launcher bar actually changes with the background, kind of like what Windows 8 did back in the day. So the color of the side actually changes, and it does a pretty good job of getting the color just right. Maybe a little too warm on this one, but not too bad. So it looks pretty nice. So it gets them pretty close. Not exactly correct, but it gets it pretty close, I'd say. Of course, there's the default, but I'll go back to the precise Pangolin. And there you go. So that'll wrap it up for this video. I'm pretty surprised the updates actually still somewhat work for this release of Ubuntu for now. I don't expect them to last much longer because, again, this is just security updates at this point for the Advantage customers. So whatever I have on here is what's up to date for the public. That's not going to last much longer, so I'm glad I got it while I did. I'll probably go ahead and I'll archive this VM and keep it because, you know, this is an up-to-date Ubuntu 12.04 long-term support VM, so that might come in handy someday later on. But for now, that's it. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one, for sure this time. This is the end of the video.